Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Silver Tears Tarot, and welcome to a Soulmate snapshot. So, I mentioned that I was going to let the notes that I received kind of guide my way as far as figuring out what today's reading was going to be about. That's exactly what I've done. But I have pulled a couple of families of questions together. So, one of the questions that I got was, we see that our person is learning some lessons, but are they using any of the information that they're learning, or how is that working out? And then there are also some of you who have said, my person has been on a date or seems to be putting these lessons into use. And so to answer the question, yes, some of them are putting it into use, but really, I guess the question remains, what does that look like? What does it mean for you, and what should you be doing about it? So that's what we're going to look at today. It'll be a general reading as always, but it's going to be general reading for this collective. So if it resonates with you, just realize these are all very much connected readings. So if it does resonate with you, you may want to take a look at some of the other readings as well. So let's start by looking at what's happening just kind of in your person's energy. And we're going to focus fairly strongly on them, knowing that some of it could be shared energy. But focusing on them. So we've got a Three of Earth, feeling that things just kind of aren't really going their way. A little bit of that. Little bit of a, we got two here. Let's see. Four of Water, that's disappointment. Maiden of Air. Okay, well, so they've had some, this is kind of confirming, yes, they've had a little bit of that. Let me give this a shot. I'm feeling like I've learned something, but I feel like I've got to kind of, in some cases, try this out in a low impact situation. So I don't know that that reflects terribly well on the relationship or the date, or I don't know that it reflects on that other person that they're talking to or are going on a date with much at all. I think that that is kind of feels a little bit like it has that placeholder energy, like they're trying something out, but again, trying it with training wheels, trying it with, feeling like there's hopefully low pressure about it. Okay, so we have the Two of Pentacles. It is a little bit of a challenge to keep things, I guess, afloat is the word that wants to come out. But so with the Four of Water, there's this sense of disappointment that's come along with it, and things not necessarily going their way. So they thought that they were going to be incorporating something into their lives that was going to help get them back on track. But it's not necessarily having that impact is kind of what I'm getting from it. It doesn't come from the right place for that, or it just is something else that ends up having to be compartmentalized. They don't feel invested. They don't feel ready for much of anything. That's kind of one of the things that feels like it wants to come out. Like they're not ready for the big investment. Otherwise, it wouldn't look like it does right now. That's kind of what wants to come out with that Seven of Pentacles. Interesting, because we're kind of already looking into what's happening with their energy around this dating situation, or really not even, some of them haven't gone out on any dates and aren't trying to go out on any dates, but are trying to use some of what they've learned. And in many cases, they have some sort of third-party situation where they have the opportunity to try some things out, but all of this energy would still it still applies. Things are not necessarily going their way. There's a sense of disappointment. There's this, I thought this was going to help to balance, but it's not really having that impact, and they don't quite feel ready for it. But they feel like they are being kind of pushed in that direction. They feel like they're being pushed in that direction, and they feel like they should be ready. They should be ready to move forward, even if they don't necessarily feel like they are. Interesting. So this is an expectation that they've set for themselves. I see these decks are kind of working interestingly together. This is set of decks that I don't use very often. This is one of the ones that is for sale on my website. It's literally these decks with all the packaging in the book and everything. It's literally these because I don't use them very often. And I looked at them this morning and I was like, I got to use these. I don't know what the deal is. So nobody's bought them yet. So I had the opportunity to still use them. And they do work well together. I'll just say I don't use them very often. And so sometimes the ones that you'll see out there are oftentimes ones that I've used more in personal readings, not as much on the channel, but I'm not as drawn to use them anymore because I feel like I get the information from other places sometimes now. These I just don't use as often. So I'm like, oh, I should make some room. Anyway, one of chalices in the reverse. So I'm like trying to finish my other sentence before this card made me lose track completely of what I was telling you, because this is a strong sense of, remember how I was just saying this is another thing for them to compartmentalize? This is a strong sense of that compartmentalization and that need. It's the need to compartmentalize. That turns out to be a big part of this and very important piece. Oh, let's see here. What did I drop? Okay, so we have the stars. The stars, this is about not a missed opportunity. It's not a missed opportunity. It is a delayed opportunity or an opportunity that's put off. It's kind of like what I'm saying with if they were ready, if they felt like they were ready for the big time, they would not be doing what they're currently doing. Yeah, they're not ready to open the door or walk through the important doors. And it may be more than one door that they need to walk through. It seems like they have, you are an example of a place in their life where maybe they have not, your person has not done right by the full situation. And sometimes it's going to just be a matter of they haven't done right by themselves, and the other person in the situation or the rest of the whatever circumstances are in that situation don't necessarily see the impact as much as they do. They've got some unfinished business before they're able to walk through this door, that door, or any other door, basically. So that they're not even, I feel like they're leading somebody on, which I understand that's not going to be the case with everybody because not everybody's using or trying to use their lessons, their learnings from those lessons in a dating sort of situation. But for sure, some of them are. We also have the Knave of Pentacles saying that they've kind of got their eyes opened a little bit to the concept of learning something, to the concept of there being something to learn in this. But it's not there yet. I don't get the sense that they're necessarily listening to the right things or the right messages in order to get there. But I gotta give them at least an A for effort for trying to open themselves up. So there's some idea that they need to open themselves up. They don't feel like they're ready for the big time. So they're kind of trying it with training wheels. They're kind of trying it with something that seems like it is lower stakes, okay? That's one of the things that we're getting already from their energy. Let's see what else needs to happen with this. Because again, this is, you know, your people are trying to, your person is trying to test out some new lessons that they have learned. And now it's a matter of, you know, what do you need to know about that? In a minute, we'll ask what you need to do, or the places in your own healing that you need to focus. But at this point, it's a matter of tell us a little bit more about this, because we're already kind of getting from in their energy. They're not trying to go to the big time just yet. We've got, all right, the Elemental of Earth. All right, so Elemental of Earth is they're looking for stability here because it's in the reverse. And what I'm getting from it being in the reverse is that they're looking for stability here, but they're not especially finding it. They feel like, once again, they thought that this was going to be something. They're kind of casting in all directions, and they thought they weren't embarking on something that was going to help to bring them a little bit of balance, and this is part of that same emotion. But unfortunately, that's not really what it's brought them, and we see that with it being in the reverse. We also have the Path card in the reverse. So, okay, it's not completely without its usefulness. So yes, they misjudged their readiness for it, or I just dropped a bunch of cards. They are all face down, but we've got a card here to look at, and it is the Goddess in the reverse. Not ready, not ready, not ready. It's a whole bunch of not quite being ready yet, but it's not necessarily that they haven't learned the lesson. It's that they haven't figured out how to use it yet. So we've seen this with them before, where they have learned the lesson, and we've seen it with you too, where you'll get to a place where you're saying, I've not just learned it, but I've also assimilated it into my worldview, and now I'm in a better position to be able to employ this lesson when the moment comes around. So this is them trying to get to that place where they're ready to employ the lesson when the moment comes around, but they're not quite ready. And so we see that they also they know by the time they crashed this, that they aren't ready. And in fact, I would say in some cases, they know before they even get into the driver's seat to go off and crash this, that they're not ready. Different things for different people. So but they know deep down they're not ready, and that's why they're not ready for the big time. So you've got the Six of Swords here. They feel like they somewhere in here, there's this moment of, I don't know if it's exactly clarity, but there's this moment where they're seeking clarity. They recognize that their things have never calmed down enough for them to find clarity, is more what it comes down to. So not so much that they're seeking it, but they recognize a need for it and that they haven't really had it yet. This is a moment of being outside themselves. So I feel like with the Path card in the reverse, this is them recognizing they have not invested in themselves sufficiently, or they're just not ready. They're going to know they're not ready, but they may not be able to articulate, because I haven't invested in myself. It's more going to be a matter of, I'm not really ready for this. I have to bail. I have to escape. So somebody else gets ghosted. Somebody else gets that, in and out behavior from them. It's not necessarily, what it feels like is a failed effort, and it feels like they also didn't give it their all. So we've got the Knight of Chalices, which is kind of that sense of ghosting again. Here's the thing, though. You may or may not hear from this person as they are making the decision to run away from this other person, because that's what it seems like they're doing. It seems like they're not feeling like they're ready for anything. They're definitely not feeling like they're ready for you, which is why they embarked on this other piece. If I'm going to be blunt, that's what they're not ready for. They're not ready for you, and so they have embarked on something a little bit different, or they're trying to save their energy to embark on. So some of them haven't. Some of them have not gone on a date, and if that's you, I'm not saying they have. I'm just saying that energy is out there of them trying to utilize this the lessons that they've learned, and they want to do it, like I was saying before, in some kind of easy place with training wheels. They completely overthink it, and they end up not having, with the Hanged Man. So we've got the Eight of Swords talking about them overthinking it, and we've got the Hanged Man in the reverse, which is kind of where they haven't gained what they need to gain. They have to come back from the path first. That's like the hermit energy. And so they have to go into the hermit cave. They have to have the realizations, which here we're seeing recognition of a need to do that. But we also see with this energy, they haven't done it. And this is why they aren't ready to use what they've learned yet. Queen of Chalices, they get triggered again, but they don't get triggered as hard as they did with you. That's not meant to be a backhanded compliment by any stretch. Basically what that is, the Queen of Chalices, when they got triggered with you, it meant something different, because as they've opened their energy up, or as they prepare to open their energy up, because they say to themselves, listen, I can't stay like this forever. But they know they need to start slow because they're not ready for you. When they get triggered again, I've already not opened themselves up enough to compare with what they experienced with you. They have not gotten as vulnerable to begin with. Just something to think about. So they've got this feeling of having options, but it's more a feeling of wishing that they could maintain options. So remember in yesterday's reading, we had that feeling where the divine masculine was saying, I wish I could just kind of keep you in this holding pattern. And we've seen this before. They wish they could keep you in a holding pattern. They wish they could kind of keep you where they are, but they don't really want to keep you there because it would mean that you're not also learning the lessons that you would need to learn in order to be successful when the two of you come back into union. But they wish they could keep you as just kind of a on ice sort of option and just put a pin in it and be able to come back when they're ready, because they feel like they're going to be able to come back when they're ready. They don't feel ready yet. And I've got to tell you, based on what I'm seeing here, I don't feel like they are either. Maybe it is better that they go and kind of fall on their face a couple times while they're trying to figure this out as they work through and say, okay, I get why I haven't, been able to incorporate this lesson yet. We have the King of Wands here. The problem is with all of that is that they still have this passion. They still have this passion that kind of makes them want to move toward you, but it's not necessarily that they know how to act when they get to you. And so there's still that sense of needing to learn, still that sense of needing to understand what that even means, which we see here with the chalices, the Eight of Chalices. Eight of Chalices is like an Eight of Cups, Eight of water energy. Sometimes it's walking away, sometimes it's walking toward. It is almost always incorporating a quest for what is really going to be important to them. They still need to do this. This thing that they're doing, or this energy that is kind of ramping up in them that would allow them to potentially, if they haven't gone on any dates, to try. It feels like it's for the right reasons, but it's not at the right time. And so, yeah, they're trying to use lessons that they've learned, but they're not ready to use them. And it is not going especially well, but they never thought it was going to go especially well, and consequently they've not given themselves a lot of chances for it to go well. What they are finding though is that there are certain things that when they get triggered again, one of the reasons it's not quite as extreme is because they have figured out like what the big bad scary stuff is now, and the things they get triggered about are not as prominent. They're much more surfacey type of their efforts, or their pieces that they know how to get past, or that they know how to kind of move around, not as significant as the way that they got triggered at the time that they came together with you, because they were a lot more open in the soul at the time that happened. Let's look into what's expected of you, or with all of the lessons that you're working on right now. What is your focus given what else has come out here on this table? This is I asked this question an awful lot in this third position, and I know some of you just come out here for this third position because you're like, you know what, I'm not going to deal with all the drama around this person anymore. Maybe that's what it feels like it's turned into. However, I do still want the advice. So take the opportunity to really look deeply into yourself and try and understand what you need and what you don't need. This is way past going into, like, they need to go into the path, okay? They need to go in and try and understand some truths about themselves, which these are some truths that you have already, it's a path you've already tread, okay? So now it's more a matter of you figuring out exactly what matters to you and how you use it. You're a little bit kind of, you're in the thick of it. I'm trying to figure out the best way to say it. You're in the thick of it. There's a definite sense of that. Still a little bit of delay happening here. This is the same concept as the star, and so it's you moving in the right direction, but there is still a little bit of a feeling of a delay. So you got the Eight of Fire here, and so this is why I feel like I'm feeling a little bit of back and forth with this star. So you're still moving toward where you need to be moving, but with the Eight of Fire, you're kind of, this reminds me of like the Wheel of Fortune, but in the reverse. kind of, as well as in the upright. Okay, so it has this sense of there is change happening for you within you. You may be being distracted a little bit by this, and so that change is kind of holding right now. That's not why it's doing it, but and that change is kind of holding right now and saying, listen, there are some things that I want you to be able to understand before you move on. You're being held in this place to understand more about the situation that you're in. And so you'll notice that it feels like things aren't moving very quickly sometimes, but yet it doesn't feel stagnant. So this is the sense of not having it feel stagnant, but having it feel like it's standing in place. And you might be like, is it just me? It is not just you. Okay, we also have the summer. Okay, so check this out. The summer lands, which is the equivalent of the Fool in the traditional tarot. And it's got, okay, so this is an honorable mention. This is a lot to take in. It's an honorable mention, so I'm not going to keep, or maybe I will keep it out here because I'm not doing anything else with this deck. So it's not like I'd be changing the odds of a card coming out afterwards. So the Summerlands feels like the Fool in the traditional tarot, but it's not quite the same. It's not, it's uncharted territory more than going off into some unknown that I don't even understand what I'm, so I guess it could be encapsulated by noticing that he's not going off a cliff. So a lot of times in the traditional tarot, you have somebody stepping off of a cliff. There's usually a dog in the picture with them. They're going off with just, you know, very small amount of things, and they're going to go off on this adventure. This guy is already on an adventure, and he's in uncharted territory, and he's going to kind of continue to do that. Also has gathered all of the elements to himself to be able to do what he needs to do. So you'll notice all of the suits here. You've got cups, pentacles, swords and rods or wands. You have all of it. Everything that is required, all of the elements coming together to give you what you need. And you're already on the path. I guess that's kind of what wants to come out with that. So it's using what you already are in the process of learning, what you've already learned. Take stock of where you are on the learning path that you've been down, and be able to kind of understand, here's what I've used, here's what I've learned, and here's what I haven't. Also recognize that those pieces, just like what your person is experiencing, sometimes those pieces that you've learned but you haven't really had a chance to truly put into play could be important. So I had a couple of them fall face up here. We have the Tower in the reverse and the Nine of Chalices in the reverse. There is something you still need to learn about what is going to make you happy. So in some cases, when I say that, I feel like, you know, there might be some of you who are saying, I know what would make me happy, and I feel like the last piece that needs to fall into place is this person, you know, coming back or treating me properly. And here's the thing. I think that with this, I'm hearing that there's more to it than that. Look for small nuances within your life that need to be changed. In some cases, they're more than small nuances. But for those of you who feel like the rest of the pieces are in place, look for something, not necessarily look for a problem. Just look for something that also needs to be, it's maybe even a minor adjustment. But it's going to help you along in figuring out how it unravels something huge for you. Like it's a small shift that makes a big change. And it's being held off right now. So when I see that the Tower is here and I see that you are avoiding a change, I don't think you're necessarily avoiding that change consciously. I think it has a lot more to do with whatever this shift is that needs to happen for you, that actually helps you get aligned with your happiness, gets you aligned with what you would consider to give you happiness. But right now you're somehow kind of like don't have your, it's like you have your back to the pile, to the door that you want to walk down or walk through. Not necessarily that you're actively avoiding something, just like you're doing something that is focusing you elsewhere. So we've got the Two of Wands in the reverse. There's a trip that you guys have gotten this advice in many different forms over the past few days here. This is someplace that you're being encouraged to go. You shouldn't go. It isn't a plane's gonna crash, don't go kind of thing. It's more of a you need the downtime for something else. You need to use the time for something else. And you've got balance that is more or less waiting for you to embrace it. I feel like these things are related. The thing that you don't walk into, and it's a social thing. Or at least that's kind of the impression that we've been given with several of the other readings. It's like around this time of year, there's a lot of social things that tend to happen. People have time off work. We've got holidays, a lot of things that are happening, and it can be a little bit overwhelming. So there's been this advice to be careful, selective about what you choose to jump into, because there's going to be something where you don't feel like you want to engage in it, and the answer is not to engage in it for one reason or another. Your time and energy will be better spent elsewhere. You have the Knave of Swords here in the reverse, and it speaks to the reason that you need to do this. So there's some kind of calm that needs to be found, or you need some sort of time alone, or time, that is quiet, that allows you to use this, that allows you to, and I feel like this may be what affords you that energy. It's not going to this social thing. But it's like you need to right some sort of wrong that is easily righted. This Knave of Swords is like a shoelace untied. It's not something super complicated to fix, but you've got to take the time to fix it. Six of Pentacles. Okay, so Six of Pentacles in the reverse has to do with how you interact with people. And it's about treating people the way that you would want to be treated, but also weighing that against, so we call that one the golden rule. And, the other thing that shows up is what we sometimes call the platinum rule, which is about treating a person the way they want to be treated. And so it encourages you to have the empathy to recognize what that looks like, but also to recognize that you are deserving of that same sort of empathy. So you shouldn't be allowing yourself to be tread upon. And what it reminds me of is I was having a conversation here recently with someone at work, and she was like, there's not going to be as much for my people to do over the holiday break, and yet they're not taking time off. Like, how do I handle this? How do you handle this? And I mentioned with my team at work, they work very hard all year, and they're salaried, and so they will have weeks where they sometimes work extra hours and they don't see extra pay for it. So I'm like, you know what? Balance things out. If it seems like you've got something that's been staring you down all year and you just haven't had time to do it, give yourself the gift of some time to do some of that thing that's been bugging you. Maybe take some downtime, because for all those times that you worked way too many hours, maybe this time you're going to work a couple fewer. Absolutely be responsible. Put out fires if stuff flames up, but don't kill yourself. This is supposed to be a little bit of catch-up time, a little bit of calmness, And I realized that even though I was saying that it's not always going to be something that is afforded to you. And I realized the person that I was talking to might not be getting that same sort of treatment coming from their manager, from their boss. So it could be, it's difficult to create this balanced energy when it doesn't just go back and forth. It's within a whole network of energy. And that's kind of what this reminds me of here with the Six of Pentacles in the reverse. So it's not just energy in between you and one other person at a time. It's the whole network of energy that you live in will have impacts on you. And so what you put forth will be, so like the way that I manage my team is going to be probably somewhat influenced on by the way that I am managed, and so, and because it's part of a whole network. And so just something to be thinking about, not just you, but also the people that you're dealing with. So we've got the Empress card. You're ready for something. You're ready for something that has kind of come out for you, but you aren't sure how to go about it. We've got this Three of Chalices here again, talking about whatever this social thing is that you're going to not engage in, or you're going to not attend. And you're going to, but here's the thing. I feel like there is an incredibly strong connection okay, and we're done. A very strong connection that has already, not quite done, been set into motion. We've got the Three of Wands here and saying that you've already set something into motion, okay? You have the Sun saying that you're moving into a direction of happiness, which we've been seeing a little bit of that one coming out here recently, and we've been seeing some of that in the personal readings too. So if you've gotten a personal reading lately, feels like we've seen a lot of the Sun, and we've also seen a fair amount of this Empress and Emperor coming out together, and this is balanced masculine and feminine energy. So with the Empress and the Emperor coming out together, that is balanced energy within you. You know, someone had asked the question about feeling like there is interplay between the masculine and feminine happening within them. This is absolutely possible, and this is absolutely something that needs to be balanced within each person before it could even be really interacting successfully with the masculine and feminine in others. And so you balance this within yourself, then you balance it across relationships. And then as we see here, you also have to balance the energies across an overall network. I see here that you're in a good position to start doing that, but you've got to treat yourself right. Something, you have to give yourself a chance to kind of unhook something that's gotten snagged, like you're walking and you've gotten snagged on something. Not going to this social event, not doing this thing, taking the time to do some thinking, taking the time to figure out where you are and how you can use what you have helps to unsnag you and allow you to move forward and moves you toward happiness. And this is a great time for it. But it's easy to get distracted by what's happening with this other person. And honestly, even though it may look flamboyant, or in some cases may not look too flamboyant, but feel kind of flamboyant, it is a matter of them working through some things that they may not be working through it in a pretty way. Like they're figuring out that they still have a lot to learn here, and that the lessons that they're trying to use, they're not quite there yet. They're not quite ready. They need to go down this path a little bit more. There's definitely some challenge in there for them. But I don't see that it is necessarily something that should influence your path at this point, because you've got so much kind of going on to the point of potentially overwhelming. I think, you know, the other thing that I wanted to look into, and I was thinking about looking into it in today's reading, and I think we're going to go to tomorrow. We're going to look at the nature of the relationship overall and kind of the interplay between the two of you because of how much you feel from each other, and how much you are bonded. So we'll look at the nature of it and just kind of get into a little bit of what that means. So thank you for being here with me today. No extended on this one because it's just a soulmate snapshot, even though it got kind of long. I guess I look forward to seeing you in tomorrow's reading.